How's it going? Bizzaro here with Test Subjects, and today I'm going to show you how to construct a lockbox that is actually very easy to make. So the story behind this is we threw a surprise birthday party for a friend of ours, and we wanted to have an escape room scavenger hunt kind of thing. So we had a bunch of different puzzle boxes and things spread around a hotel room and everything like that. And what we did with this guy was there was no discernible lock or way to open it, but on the side is a little sticker here, as you can see. In one of the other boxes, you had to take, when you took the lock off, if you noticed on the back, there was the same sticker. We also glued a magnet to it. So what happened is you actually had to use the lock as the key to open this box. And it only took me about 30 minutes to make with things I had here in my workshop. I threw it together pretty quickly. And so I thought I would show you guys how to make something that if you ever need to construct something like this quickly, you'll know how. So let's get started. This is what the inside of the box looks like. The box itself was from a craft store. You can pick up these types of boxes pretty much anywhere. It was very easy to remove the latch system that was on here. It's just a little swivel latch and stuff like that. So anyway, on the inside here, I'm going to turn this upside down. On the inside, it is nothing more than a battery, because this was made to be picked up and moved around. I would obviously, the easiest route is to hardwire this to a table or something like that. But if you want to go this route, I'll explain a little more about that later. But all this is a cabinet lock here. It's one of these guys. These little cabinet locks here that you can pick up online. And these are fail secure, as I've mentioned in the past, not fail safe. That means that these are not receiving power, and they're locked when they're not receiving power. And when they do receive power, they open up like that. So it's a cabinet lock. It is a reed switch. It's just one of these little one of these guys here, a reed switch that uses a magnet and a power source, and that's really it. So let's get into a little more detail about how this is constructed. So the first thing you need to pick up is one of these cabinet locks. You can get these online pretty easily, and then you have your latch piece here, and it presses in and it locks in place. Now it also has a little emergency release lever here, which I'll talk more about later right here, like this. Now, most people think they can only go in like this, but they can actually go in from the side too, like this, if need be. But they have to still be pressed in from the top, like that. So if your mounting requires it, your mounting can come in from the side, like this, but that's not important. Anyway, so as you'll see here, what I had to dial in kind of the space here on this guy, as you can see right here. So I ended up just using a piece of wood and screwing this in. And the reason for the piece of wood here was because if I screwed this in up through, the screws would have penetrated through here, and that would have been a problem. You can still kind of feel them, but they're not like poking out. So what I ended up doing instead was I screwed in from the top this piece of wood, so this had something to mount to that was also more sturdy than this. This is a thin piece of wood right here. I mean, that's the problem with getting cheap boxes from a craft store. The wood is probably about this thin, and it doesn't hold very well. So this was to secure this latch so people couldn't just pry the box open. And then down here, this is just screwed in from the back there. Usually what I would do is I'll hot glue first to kind of mount it and check it, because hot glue can pop off pretty easily, and then I'll screw it in place like that. So that was step one to get the guy mounted here. So once you kind of dial in where you've got it, and the nice thing about this is, like this, if you get it dialed in just right, there is there's very little play. And the reason for that is because these things, once they lock in place, they eject once the thing is done. So they pop up, so you know that thing is open, which is really nice about these. So anyway, that's step one, is getting your latch and this thing mounted in place. The next thing you're going to need is a sensor of some sort. As you can see here, I just glued a reed switch onto the wall here. This was a little high. This should actually probably have been a little lower, but this is just where I put it. Because we ended up covering with this fabric. So, but yeah, you get a reed switch of some sorts. This is one of the alarm door types here, these guys here, and these come in normally open and normally closed, so make sure you get the right one for what you need. What's interesting is sometimes the ones you buy will say normally closed, but that actually means when the door is normally closed. So you want to make sure you clarify which one is which, and so sometimes it means the door is normally closed, or sometimes it means the contacts on the inside are normally closed. So check that. But I mean, you don't have to just use a reed switch. There's other sensors you can use. You can use some sort of proximity sensor. This is an inductive. This detects metal. You could use proximity, which capacitive, which detects touch.
It'll detect through thin walls like this. You could use RFID. You could use Hall sensors like these things here from an idea or escape room engineering. Yeah, they make these little modules here. But I mean, quite frankly, all of that is overkill when you can just use a reed switch. So again, all you're going to do here is just wire this up, and what you're doing is you are interrupting the red, the positive, with the reed switch here. And I'll throw up a diagram here so you can see kind of how this is wired in a more open world view, as it were. Now finally, let's talk about power here. So this is one of these little super lithium-ion rechargeable battery packs, right? And this is because this box needed to be mobile, as I talked about. But quite frankly, what needs to happen is you just need to wire this to 12 volts, powered normally. So I would screw this down to a table, right? And then just hardwire, drill a hole through here, run this down, or drill a hole through here actually, run this down through your table, screws to the table, and then you're done. The only thing, one thing we did was we put fabric over this so people couldn't see it, and just kind of, you know, lightly tacked it in there. What I would actually suggest is, again, mounting this lower and then putting a false bottom on this. Taking this and then screwing, velcroing, command stripping, whatever, a false bottom. So when people open this and there's an item inside, they can't access the electronics because people will mess with it. So one of the things I suggest is if you're going to have a battery with the box can move it around, because having a false bottom in here and having to unscrew this all the time to charge this would be kind of irritating. And I would also use a much larger battery than this. I mean, quite frankly, there's no power to this. This can sit on for a long time because there's not constant power being run to it like a mag lock is. But what I would suggest is taking this, drilling a small hole, and having this come through the side of the wall here, like having this charge port kind of sticking out here or somewhere like that, or even the bottom. So all you have to do to charge the battery is plug in the box, and that way everything is kind of self-contained. So another thing I want to talk about is when you're making things like this, especially with fail secure locks, one thing you want to make sure you do is have some sort of way to get this open should something happen. If you lose power, somebody pulls a wire and this is shut, I'm screwed now because I took the battery out. I can't get this back open without unscrewing this, but that's kind of a pain. So what I did is here in the bottom I drilled a small hole that lines up with the thing on the inside. Now I cannot guarantee I'm going to be able to hit this, but there it is, boom. So now I can open this with the emergency release latch that is on this right here. So all I gotta do is the screwdriver just comes up and just kicks this, which enables this to open on its own. So make sure you have backup plans for things like this, should that happen. So one last thing I want to talk about, because this is a solenoid, that when it fires, you might want to have some sort of flyback diode in place to prevent damage, especially if you're using a reed switch. You don't have to do it. We didn't do it in ours, but ours was only meant to be used like once at the time, because when the electricity spikes, it can damage the insides of these things, and they need to be replaced more often. So it is always safe practice when using any kind of solenoid or relay or maglock to use a flyback diode, and just look up online how to wire them up and what they are. And they're pretty easy to implement, nothing crazy, you just kind of have to wire them in with the other wires, but it is always a good practice to use these. Alright, so that's it. Hopefully this will help you out. Things like this are good to know how to make in case you have a puzzle that breaks and you need to replace it with something quickly, or just have as a backup, or just a fun side project to do in an afternoon, something like that. So if you end up making something like this, let us know, we'd love to see it, and we will see you next time we have something strange to show you. Say goodbye. Goodbye!